Amir, you can switch on your AV. Just play it for a minute. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of CATS, Center for Advancement of Traditional Building Technology and Skills, I welcome all. You can. Your AV is getting disconnected in between.
Ma'am, I have stopped now. You can start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of CATS, Center for Advancement of Traditional Building Technology and Skills, I welcome all the speakers and each one of you to the special Place Stories session of Festival of Places 2020, jointly hosted by Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, New Delhi, and CATS. CATS is a not-for-profit organization working in the area of heritage conservation, management, and advocacy since 2001. We have been working with a vision to highlight local heritage assets, empower local communities, and make heritage conservation participatory and sustainable. An effort such as ours requires technical and financial assistance as well as patronage. You can support and participate in our multiple initiatives and programs by volunteering your skills and contributing financially. The donation, however small, can help us contribute to the conservation and protection of our fast disappearing and hitherto unknown heritage assets. Donation to CATS entitles donors to get tax exemption under Section 80G of Income Tax Act. For volunteering your skills for our initiative, please write to us at info@catsindia.org. You can also support us by buying our heritage souvenirs that raise awareness about unprotected heritage assets in our cities and towns. Do visit ARESH, the Heritage Craft Collection, on our website www.indiaheritagehub.org. We at CATS feel very strongly about the dismal state of public spaces in our cities and firmly believe change in the way we think, talk, and use public spaces can only begin at the grassroots by creatively engaging with people and places and empowering them to make a difference to the places and spaces around. The Festival of Places, an initiative by CATS, is an idea born out of the spirit of volunteerism to come together, collaborate, co-create, and celebrate places that nurture health, happiness, and foster community living. The Festival of Places aims to bring people, places, and memories and their interrelationships at the forefront of public discussion. It envisions to investigate places, the people who inhabit them, the collective and individual memories that are integral to places, and present them in a new way to leverage discussions on the future of public spaces. It provides an opportunity to people for sharing their personal narratives. Moreover, the festival aims to help discover the much overlooked human dimension of places. The main highlight of the festival this year is Place Stories, a series of online storytelling sessions that will help understand the hidden dimensions, multiple interpretations, and varied memories associated with places, highlighting distinct characteristics of places as well as unraveling the bond that people have with places, a connection that lives through their experiences. Special Place Story Sessions is a series of interesting storytelling sessions by subject experts from diverse fields. These sessions focused on public spaces have been planned around 4 pertinent themes. The theme for the Special Place Story Session 3 is public space as a common resource. Public spaces are important parts of urban environment, creating a framework for public life. There are many types of public spaces with different functions, attracting various users, and these spaces are largely shared and free to be used. Being principally a common resource, the question of who has access to and who owns, controls, and manages the public spaces becomes very critical to their design, use, and maintenance. This session will explore the idea of public space as a network of common resources in cities and towns and understand the role of communities in management of public spaces. The session will also explore innovative tools and technologies that can help in the maintenance and management of public spaces and can help democratize the entire process. We are very happy to have with us this evening a very interesting mix of speakers. Professor Ekta Gyani is an architect and landscape architect from Sushant School of Art and Architecture, Sushant University. Ms. Preeti Chauhan, Associate Professor, Department of Architecture and Planning, Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women. Mr. Lalit Kishore Bhati, Architect and Urban Planner, co-founder Path Architects Planners, Auroville. We begin with a play story by Professor Ekta Gyani, which has a very interesting title. The title of a play story is The Story Factor in Design. Ekta Gyani is an architect and a landscape architect, campus planner by training, having received her undergraduate degree from Sir J.J. College of Architecture, Bombay University, and a graduate degree from the University of California at Berkeley, USA. She has worked as a campus planner for Stanford University, USA, and for Quark City in Punjab, India. Ekta is devoted to working on blurring the lines between the built environment and the surrounding landscape, using participatory design to make every place a people place, using design to educate the user and bring about behavioral changes when necessary, or merely to enhance the experience of learning. Thinking beyond the bottom line and to set enviable standards of design and execution have been the mainstays of her 25 plus years of her professional career. Ekta has taught at the Chandigarh College of Architecture as visiting faculty and is a professor at Sushant School of Art and Architecture, where she conceptualized a new postgraduate program in landscape architecture. She has helped final years architecture students with design thesis and dissertation, taught design, landscape architecture, and site planning to BArch students, and started and headed the MArch Landscape Architecture program since its inception in 2017. After the place stories by our speakers, we will open the session for questions and answers. Please write the questions in the chat box and we will take them one by one. In case you wish to ask the question yourself, we will allow you to do so. I would now like to invite Professor Ekta Gyani to share with us her play story.
Thank you. Thank you, Urvashi. So happy to be with you and absolutely thrilled to be part of this incredible program that you have started. I've enjoyed the last few sessions. I just want to make sure you can hear me and you can see my presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so let me start with where I started with when I was asked to do this. I decided that I will not talk about just my love and my memories of public places and elevate them to that pedestal that everybody does. I mean, nothing wrong in that. But I thought what I would do is talk about my stories of making of these public places. So the minute someone asked me to do a presentation on place stories of public places, I started thinking about what is common between place stories and public place. The thing common is storytelling from when we were that small has been in the public domain. You know, stories, the then TED Talk venues were always in the public domain. I also, you know, deconstructed common resource. And what is common? Common is something that every person can enjoy and every person can use. And that's where I began my, and common is what is becoming less common for the public, the luxury of the sky and the earth. And so public space is that one place where we have the luxury of the sky and the earth. Again, as I said, literature has talked about it both in prose and poetry of the proof that storytelling was indeed told under the trees in the commonplace. And that therefore is the common denominator and was the then TED Talk venue. This is a fantastic reason why stories need to be told. And I'm going to read it, bear with me please. Truth, naked and cold, had been turned away from every door in the village. Her nakedness frightened the people. When Parable found her, she was huddled in a corner, shivering and hungry. Taking pity on her, Parable gathered her and gathered her up and took her home. There she dressed Truth in story, warmed her and sent her out again. Clothed in story, Truth knocked again at the villagers' doors and was readily welcomed into the public people's houses. They invited her to eat at their table and warm herself by the fire. I just love this quote by Annette Simmons. And here's the reason why stories are told. I'm going to tell you a little story about the Nature Conservancy. It's an organization as old as our own country is, and they discovered that they were not getting any donor bucks or money until they actually attached the conserved acres of land to a story and a name. Donations came far and wide, and I believe, conserve more than 200 million acres of land now around the world. So storytelling is about values in action. We have heard moral of the story, but basically it is values in action. By telling a story, what we do is align people to our values or the value that you want to heighten. A little bit of, I'm a teacher, so I have to preach a little bit. So what makes for a public place to be memorable and loved? Alan Jacobs has talked about sociability and vibrancy, use and activities, accesses and linkages, comfort, safety, and imageability. And then we have so many other perception theories from J. Appleton's 1975 theory of prospect and refuge, where he talks about the fact that our DNA is programmed to like something of comfort, of something of opportunity, and something of safety. And Rachel Kaplan and Stephen Kaplan talk in their attention restoration story about man's need for legibility, understanding, starting from legibility to mystery, and man's need for exploration, from coherence to complexity. Project for Public Places talks about the power of 10, that to make a public place successful, you need at least 10 things to do. If it's a library, you need, a park around it. You need places to eat around it. You need something for people to play around. So 10 things, if someone has 10 things to do in a public place, you are guaranteed it's a success. I absolutely agree. And now I've come up with my own 4 P's matrix. I'm sorry about the typo there. And what I have done is equated to the left brain and the right brain. The left brain is all about numbers, about analytics. The right brain is about the soft feelings, the touchy feelings. So the physicality of the space, the size of the space, the configuration of the space, the purpose of the space, who all use it, what all is done in that space, the analytics, the numbers. And the right brain, the psychology, the feelings, the experiences of one person, something what we hear of in the field of phenomenology. And where does that public place go from good to the one that's absolutely loved and revered? From stories, from perpetuating the stories, talking about the incidents that happened, cultural values of that place. And all of this becomes that lovable space in that collective memory. So I began my little experiments with my students, and some of my students probably here. I have used some of your lovely work, and I'm so proud of it, where I start with asking the students to try and close their eyes and remember some lovable place that they have amazing memories of. And because we design in the first semester of Landscape Architecture Master's Program, a campus, a university campus, I asked them to remember the favorite places of educational institutions they've been with. So we have from Rupali Prasad telling us her favorite place was the courtyard of their school because it was vibrant, there was fresh air, there was green nature. From Vishal talking about that one tree on his campus where everybody congregated because there were benches to sit around, and fun stories like, this boy hit his head on this signboard while he was chasing after a girl. And Natasha Rana on her campus loved the place next to the nursery because it was so natural and there were peacocks. So it's amazing memories. And funnily, they try that some value of their memory they try and generate in their own design solutions while designing. So what is design intent? Who are we designing for? What is the ideal design? There are long wish lists, but whose wish lists? Do we only listen to the loudest person or the patron who's paying for the project? Not at all. We actually need to listen to every user of the space that we are designing. So it is really dear to me, this idea of participatory design, to cull out the essence that one will ultimately convert into design strategy and therefore could create those lovable public spaces. In participatory design, we want to stay in the green zone, the citizen control to partnership, and not go into the placation to manipulation. Jan Gehl talks about inversing the design process. He talks about designing the activity and then the space and then the architecture. And I talk about designing the story. Let's all design the story that we want to see come alive in the spaces. So design is not just checkboxes and a list of requirements. Story one, I'm going to take you to California. There was a massive earthquake, the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, and the Cypress Freeway had come down and it had to be rerouted. And Caltrans, the California Transport Agency, tried to work with this neighborhood called the South Prescott neighborhood near Oakland to reroute the freeway from their backyard. I mean, you've heard of NIMBY, not in my backyards. What happens? Where do all these unsavory land users come around? To impoverished neighborhoods, neighborhoods who don't have, the politics and the money. It's about equity, justice. So we actually worked with the South Prescott neighborhood, met them every weekend, and tried to see what works for them. What can we do? We knew it's going to be rerouted, but how do you do it with the citizens? How do you do that mitigation effort with the green belt? And you do more than just design that little piece of land. I tell my students, you have to design beyond that boundary that the owner has bestowed into your hands to redesign. You look at the opportunity to revitalize the community. So we used to meet them every weekend. We used to have design charrettes with them. We walked with them. We sat on their front porches. We tried to cull out what was important to each neighbor and what were the resources that we had available. So what you see on the left is some of the feedback that the neighbors gave me on my design solution that I presented to them in one of these public charrettes. The next story is in Paragpur in Himachal Pradesh, where I had recently come back after my master's degree and working in the US for many years. And I was designing the judge's court, a country manor in this beautiful village in Himachal Pradesh called Paragpur that had just been declared the first heritage village of India. And I just fell in love with the village, and I went, that's when I was teaching at the Chandigarh College of Architecture. I went and spoke to the principal there and convinced them that we needed to make the students understand what participatory design is. So we used to go to Paragpur and engage with the villages, essentially looking for direction for them, because there was rampant development of, architecture, because they wanted to cash in with the new status of heritage village. So we were looking, of course, for architectural controls and aesthetic guidelines about materiality and indigenous construction techniques. But we actually tried to connect with the neighbors, the community, and we went door to door with them. So as after our 12 hours of working, we used to come back to our dorm rooms and we used to do role playing to try and play the role of one of the residents you met, so that you literally put yourself in the shoes of that person and then rethink design strategy. take you back to Stanford University. Here, you can imagine a young landscape architect, campus planner has been asked to redesign a courtyard that was once designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. I mean, it can freeze you in your shoes. How would you do that? Eventually, it was a huge success because we actually looked at connecting with, the dean of the school, and this Ginston Labs was right next to the Stanford Linear Accelerator, in itself historic. And how do you design it? How do you check box all of the things that the stakeholders use? And a funny story is that while I was trying to find the strategy, the way forward for my design solution, I discovered that there were 9 olive trees that were planted way then. And I discovered that the dean of the school was a huge fan of the Beatles, as was I, and number 9 became important to us. So, we found that common sensibility to go forward to connect with the user. I also, to try and explain to them how large this courtyard is, I told them that it was the size of an Olympic pool. So the story, the joke, whenever we had to set up our meetings, we would say, let's jump into the pool. So, you kind of connect with the people you're designing for in so many ways. This is the story of me designing a place in Mohali for Cork City. And Fred Ibrahimi, the owner of the company, told me that, Ekta, do whatever you do in the design, make sure that the simple boy meet girl happens. And of course, they live happily ever after. And that was our joke that, I have to become a matrimonial kind of consultant and not the landscape consultant for all of his projects. And this was a SEZ project. And happy to announce that we did help some boy meeting girl, and we had many happily ever after while I worked there. This is the story of my father's generation. He used to spend some of his holidays in the city of Amritsar, and he talked about how there was a fuzzy fading line between ownership, between the community and the self. When there was a fire or there was a new birth of a baby, neighbors would go on top of roofs and yell to the next roof. The whole city knew what was happening. I mean, look at that amazing power of this collective experience and memory. And this is a fun story. I have a phobia of reptiles, and when I moved into Florida, I had some of the reptile first-hand, face-to-face meetings. This was me taking my 1-year-old and my 3-year-old to Pinecrest Gardens, and we were having a little picnic lunch, and this Mr. Monitor Lizard came and gave us a visit, and I swear I would have had a heart attack that day if my kids were not with me, and if I didn't have little cherry tomatoes to throw at this new guest on our table. And the story of this guy coming onto a picnic table, and these were the picnic tables we sat at. I think traveled far and wide, and I actually had the manager of this Pinecrest Gardens come and tell me when I was leaving after a 2-hour trip here that this is the first time it's happened. So in history, somehow, collective memory, maybe the story is still told. I'd have to go back to find out. And this reminds me of what Randy Hester, who was a professor of mine, used to say. He used to say that landscape architecture is so important because we are slowly moving away from our connection with nature. And he used to say that every child has the right to be eaten up by a mountain lion. And here I was showing you how I had the right to be eaten up by a monitor lizard. Okay, not such good stories. We've heard of how public places, the decrease of people moving into public places has increased domestic violence. Here's a little story that I'm not happy about. So the only time my daughter left my house in the last 9 months was go to Cyber Hub with a friend, and she comes back and she tells me that she heard a Caucasian man and an Indian girl. Um, uh, the girl was crying and sobbing away, and the man was being belligerent and shouting at her and telling her to stop crying, and his volume would bend. She said, I really felt helpless. And which reminded me of a story when I was designing for this family in an ancestral village of this family that actually immigrated to Canada. Whenever they came back to India, they wanted to redo their ancestral home. And I asked them to afford me a little time because I wanted to find out what was important in the collective memory while designing the landscape. And I was told this old lady will talk to me. And you know what she told me? She said, do whatever you want, but try and put the kitchen where it's more in a public space and it's not hidden away. Because she said that she had uncles, she had cousins, and she had to deal with molestation in her own house. And so the ladies would prefer cooking in this courtyard space where, everybody could see what was happening. So another interpretation of value of a public place. Um, and I have to tell you this, but I love this song by Jagjit Singh, Kagaz Ki Kashti, Ye Barish Ka Pani. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but and I don't know if you can hear my voice over it, but till I was, I think, an adult, I remember the lines to be, वो people के छल्लों के प्यारे से टोपे. And I love the people tree because of that. So my little story, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ekta, for a very interesting and very, very engaging presentation. The next speaker for today's session is Ms. Preeti Chauhan. Preeti is an architect and healthcare planner by profession, presently working as Associate Professor in the Department of Architecture and Planning since 2016. She has a bachelor's degree in architecture from GCA Lucknow, a master's degree in town planning from ITPI Delhi, and an executive master's degree in healthcare planning from London South Bank University, UK. As a professional architect and healthcare planner, she has 18 years of field experience working as associate director in DDF Consultants Private Limited since 1998. She has designed more than 122 buildings in India and abroad. She is associated with Delhi Urban Art Commission as an advisor for healthcare projects. She is also member of AIIA Northern Chapter. She has been associated with Tech Architectural Exhibition and Conferences as mentor for their Walk the Talk with Your Mentor program. She has written several research papers and has traveled widely in India and abroad for architectural tourism, conferences, and workshops. She moved from professional practice to education in order to share her knowledge with her students. I now invite Preeti to present her play story titled La Passeggiata, Social Appetite as a Common Resource.
Thank you so much, Urvashi. Thank you for inviting me. And I really want to thank the entire team of Festival of People for having me here to discuss a short story. It's not exactly a story, but it is just a viewpoint that I wanted to share. As Indian, what I feel is that you may take out the Indians from India, but you can't take out Indianness from the Indian. So majorly, what I wanted to talk about was La Passeggiata. Many people might be knowing what La Passeggiata is, but many of them might not be aware of it. So I would be discussing it in a little more in detail. I believe that we are who we are, and we do what we wish to do each and every day. So, talking about social appetite as a common resource. So, going further, um, I would like to elaborate a little more on La Passeggiata, social appetite as a common resource. How do we define it from there onwards? So, Italy gave this concept of La Passeggiata where they felt that every family or every human being has certain social needs. The social needs would include that you need to walk, which means that you walk for leisure, maybe for health or to make connect. Then community and belongingness, which means meeting people and communicating, because yeah, Italy, quite like Indians, are very neighborly, and they enjoy company, being in family spaces with their family, enjoying company of their neighbors and other people with their families. And then definitely the family time, which means you want to enjoy joy, love, and bonding. And the last is the evening time, which means that it talks about striking the work life balance. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And these are the aspects, the four aspects of La Passeggiata that were given in Italy, which tell us that if we do these things, we make memories. So, memories are formed by whatever we do in majorly our leisure time. When we work, we work. But other than that, what we do is what we do. So let's understand, what do we do? This means what is our need? And then we also need to understand, where do we do it? Which means what is the space? And as architects, when we start understanding these two aspects, we also try to understand the relationship between need and space. So coming back to, what do we do? So whatever we do, what do we do is majorly the social appetite is based upon the experience we share. The experience of being in a public space, the experience of being with the people we want to be with, and the experience of the time of the day we want to be. Because if the most important time that we want to spend with our family and friends and gather around is usually the end of the day, because now we have shut off everything that we have been doing. We our responsibilities and our official businesses, we shut them off after some part of the day, and then you just don't want to think about them. Then again your clock starts at 9 o'clock the next morning. So majorly it is about the experience we want to gain. And for what do we go to these social spaces? Maybe for the common resources like shopping, maybe for entertainment, because we've had a hard day, maybe, and we want to lighten up our mood, maybe to enjoy the local taste. And the third is and the fourth is interaction. When we talk about local taste, if you people become nostalgic about things like, okay, Chandni Chowk की पराठे वाली गली, या अमीनाबाद के मटर कुलचे, या हम किसी और चीज की बात करते हैं, तो they we always want to talk about memories which are related to some food joint that we have seen, or a place where the guitar plays. Like if you go to Hoskas village here in Delhi, you will hear somebody playing a guitar in some cafe above, and it's so soothing to move around in that street altogether. Next, we come down, where do we do it? So when we talk about where do we do it, what as urban designers we are thinking and doing, what are we doing? We create spaces safe for human welfare. We talk about social needs, vitality, quality of life, happiness, psychological needs of people, user-friendly spaces, sense, joy, and exhilaration. And then we talk about activities that are happening in those spaces. We are also talking about interactive spaces. This all we are doing and thinking about as urban planners, keeping in viewpoint that each family needs are almost the same. And because of that, we have created a new world which is called as retail. Now, when we think about retail, we also need to understand what transformation the retail has gone through, from street shopping to mall shopping to online shopping. Looking at this picture, we think about comfort, we are talking about cost, and we are talking about convenience. So, this is what we are talking about. But what about the experience? When we talk about social appetite, socializing, moving out with your family, making new memories, making memories in small corners and small spaces, what are we actually talking about? Is it just this? So let's have a look. I'm showing you one picture. Just go through these three pictures and then I'll show you something else. So this is a picture of a mall, but obvious. This is another picture of a mall. And this is another picture of a mall. Now placing them together, if you see, this is in India, This is in USA, and this is in Europe. As architects, when we say that you always design with a concept, but you must never forget the context, how is any one of them different from each other? They all have the same look and space, they all have the same appeal, and they almost look like a modular kind of a design which is followed worldwide. Now, looking at some other pictures, this is Chandni Chowk, this is in China, this is the street Champs-Élysées in Paris. So now looking after all these pictures, you can understand that there is a transformation from experience to convenience. When we look at street shopping means you come out of your built homes, your houses, your offices into the open spaces. When you talk about mall shopping, it is moving out from one built space to another built space. When we talk about online shopping, it is like nowhere but everywhere. Okay, mom, you want a new hot case? I'll just order online. You might be sitting anywhere and you might be doing that at your own convenience. So the four aspects that were given by Pasijata earlier, the La Pasijata concept, to walk, community and belonging, family time and evening, has been transformed. Maybe from the day it has gone to the weekend. This means you have time for your family and friend, or maybe family oblique friends on the weekend. And now, because of the COVID that has turned in and people are not moving out, the online shopping thing has actually taken power. So now, whatever we are doing is anytime, depending upon our convenience. So we need to redefine what people want before we go in for other kind of aspects that okay, this is the kind of spaces we want as public space, this is the kind of retail we are thinking of in a public space. We must need to understand what is it that the people want. The first thing that we can think of, I'm not going through the entire chart because it becomes very boring for me as well as for you, so I'm just trying to pinpoint small things. As Indians, we are shopaholics. We need a lot and lot of variety. We might be having say 10,000 purses, but then this new one we don't have, so we would be looking forward, okay, this is the one that I should buy, it will go with the particular dress. So yes, we do think of that. We might be having a fleet of cars, but okay, this is a new model that has come in, a new iPhone has come in, so we just move in and we move out. So we are like shopaholics by birth. The second best part about the experience is bargaining. We love bargaining. When we go to the street shopping areas and we always talk about things, okay, nahi bhaiya ye itne ka nahi, itne ka de dijiye, nahi itna laga lijiye, theek theek laga lijiye. It gives you a sense of achievement what you have done. At the end of the day, if you have just saved even 100 rupees, then you feel like, oh my god, what have I done? I've actually, it gives you a feeling of accomplishment. Second thing is the touch and feel inspect. When you are into in a place where when you go around the shopping, which you don't get while online shopping. The online shopping benefit is okay, you get something, you don't like it, you return it back, the next day it's picked up and it's gone. It's a doorstep delivery system. But the feel of satisfaction that you get when you go and you touch and feel a particular cloth or a particular material, you literally do a quality assurance for things. Similarly, the quantities, what amount do you want to buy, what is the size that you want to buy, it becomes easier. This is what they want to do. And then Indians are pretty foodies. You can see even people eating golgappas from a van which is parked outside their society. Are they even thinking about quality? No, it is all about the taste. Then Indians are talkative. We are very, very talkative. We love to talk to even strangers. We are sitting in the train, you go to a metro in Japan, you will see there's pin drop silence. People barely smile at each other and they are very quiet and seated very poised, in a very poised manner on the seat. But if you go down to a metro in India, probably every other person would be passing a social smile to the other person and they might be smiling and looking at each other also. So similarly, the spatial perception, where we talk about now lead, luxury or binge shopping, we also want to know what is the return policy. And then we are also looking at space planning. When you look at Chandni Chowk, there are specialized streets for different particular things that you want to buy. So when you want to go to Chandni Chowk or Lajpat Nagar or maybe Sarojini Nagar, you must know exactly where to buy what. You will know the shop number also. And after sometimes we also create a rapport with the shopkeeper also, because there is a trust thing that comes in. You start trusting a particular shopkeeper or a particular shop for the quality that they are giving you. So probably that is the thing that we are actually looking forward to. And then comes the inflowing population. When you move out onto the streets, you see other economic background people also. When you go to malls, you see people who might be like, more well dressed than you, or maybe carrying more luxury items than you. So probably you get to learn about what is the latest fashion that is running around. Then you look at another family who has just come. They are not buying anything because probably they can't afford buying a lot of things in the mall, but they're just coming and enjoying the space that is there in the mall. So practically you get to experience life at all stages when you move into these spaces. So similarly, we need to redefine how our street shopping experience, because once we have defined what our user is actually looking forward to, we can actually do this. There are many proposals that are going around in the world. You can talk about America, or you can talk about UK, or you can talk about Europe or India as well. You can see that people are moving more towards pedestrianized spaces. Even in Meerut, if you go in the Kant areas, you will see that after 5 o'clock there is a particular road which is restricted for vehicular movement. So everyone in the neighborhood comes out and starts walking or exercising on the street itself, on the road itself. But on the contrary, more promenades we are creating day to day. We are also looking for redevelopment plans. This is a picture of the Chandni Chowk redevelopment plan. And then we are also looking at transportation management, because convenience does rope in when you come down to street shopping or mall shopping. People are looking for transportation conveniences. We are looking for toilet facilities. We are looking for other kind of facilities which is better where. But then somehow we manage lots and lots of things. But because we are out there to design for the people, so we must define exactly what they want rather than follow the culture that is happening worldwide and become something that maybe we are not. So that is the message or the story that I would want to share with you. That when I was a kid and I used to go out with my mother to a particular shop every Monday, she had fast and हम पेड़े लेने के लिए जाया करते थे. तो वो shopkeeper जो है, I still remember his name, Narayan uncle. He used to give me a small vernacular toffee, कम्पट कहते थे हम उसे. तो वो दिया करते थे हर बार, and I used to be so thrilled to receive that one free comfort from him. एंड एवरी मंडे आई यूज टू मेक इट अ प्रैक्टिस है, मुझे अपना होमवर्क खत्म करना है, मुझे इनके साथ जाना है टू मीट हिम. And just 10 years before, I again went with my kids to meet Narayan uncle. He was pretty old at that time. And he gave that comfort to my kids also. And that memory, immediately it gushed back into my mind. So what I feel is that all Indians have this appetite for socializing, to making, and at the end of the day, this is what we want. I think this we want. And as architects, we should concentrate more upon what people want rather than what is best for them. Because what they want is what is best for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti, for a very, very interesting presentation. And thank you for, introducing us to the concept of La Prasidyata and highlighting, the 4 factors that are very, very crucial for public spaces. Thank you very much. Our last speaker for the session is Mr. Lalit Kishore Bhati. Mr. Lalit Kishore Bhati is an architect and urban planner. He has been living in Auroville for past 20 years and engaged in diverse range of integral learning activities. Example, Auroville Master Plan, Sustainable Campus Planning and Design Studios, Swadharma Program, Engaging Cities Workshop, and City Regions Webinar Series. He has co-authored a paper on tapping the potential of Sri Aurobindo's philosophy in planning. He is co-founder of PATH, an Auroville-based architecture and planning studio, and Auroville Campus Initiative. PATH, co-created by Lalit Kishore Bhati and Shailja Sudhakar Bhati, has done varied projects ranging from residences to institutional buildings in and around Auroville, and has been engaged in diverse integral learning activities. An attempt to rise above oneself, go beyond personal limitations, and walk with faith into the unknown is what the unfolding and creation is all about. Welcome, Mr. Bhati. I now invite you to present your story titled Keeping the Space Open for Community Engagement. Experience from Auroville, vision, evolving practices and challenges.
Thank you, Urvashi. You can hear me? It's fine.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Uh, Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful event and giving me an opportunity to come and share my learnings, insights, and experiences from Auroville. And the previous two presentations were also fantastic. Great learning, I must say. I'll start with the presentation. You can see. All
And
right.
you can see.
Yeah. So, uh, as compared to, or not really compare with the two previous presentations, coming from the background of living in Auroville, and I'm assuming some of you, many of you may be aware about Auroville. I'm talking about how the Auroville is a very different context also, the growth, the evolution, vision. So I'm coming more from that angle, how Auroville has developed based on its vision and practices, a culture of community engagement. So it is already there. It's very evident, very strong, and how different tools and technologies and practices around this have been developed. So it is keeping the space open for community engagement. How Auroville keeps that kind of possibility, facility alive. So I'll be more talking about that. Um, Towards this, it is very important to understand that Auroville essentially is based on the spiritual vision of Mother and Shiva Aurobindo. And this is Auroville's charter. That Auroville belongs to nobody in particular. It belongs to humanity as a whole. It's a place for unending education and constant progress, a bridge between the past and the future, and a place for material and spiritual researches. So it is important if we keep this reference in mind, because most of the activities which are happening, they are varied interpretation, versions, experiments around these, what people have understood, those who have come to live life towards these ideals or the points of charter. Just a second. Yeah. So Auroville is only 50-year young as compared to many other places, and it was inaugurated on 20th February 1968. And these were the beginnings, a very hard, barren, almost waste-like land in the very beginning. And the people, those who were there, very handful of volunteers. Nobody was doing any job or something. So I'm just giving you a bit of an Auroville introduction background also in a bit holistic way, so that you know what is the frame of life and life activity spectrum. So these areas were transformed into with this kind of very harsh, difficult conditions. So the engagement with the land, engagement with the context has been very much part of our life, and also engagement with the bioregion, the surrounding region, the population. And the first 20 years, this was one of the major afforestation drives, soil and water conservation efforts, which were done on all very voluntary spirit. So this whole area was transformed, microclimate changed, groundwater table uplifted. Many other things happen when a forest comes. So we have a short time. So I'll just give you, if we talk about community open space or open space angle, perhaps Matre Mandir area is one of the major community open space but it is of different type. As against many other open spaces, Matre Mandir is defined peace area. This is a place for self-discovery. You can come, you can be in this space, but with an intent for self-discovery and silence. So it has a different notion in this context, just to keep in mind. Hence, Auroville case is a bit different in particular in that sense. This is the way how the forest has come up. This is the banyan tree, the geographical center of Auroville, which is talking about central open space, but of a different type for self-discovery. And the aim of Auroville is human unity. There is lots of diversity issues. How do we learn to come together, learn to be together? As of now, we are 3,000 people from 55 countries, and the proposed population is 50,000. So there is a master plan. There are four small zones and surrounded by the green belt, which also has 6 native villages in the nearby. And this plan, which is also known as Galaxy Plan, is a part of the city area plan. And as per some initial calculations, even up to 50% or more percentage of this city area is kind of open space or open, yeah, green open spaces available. This is a one provision. So when we say 3,000 people, we're talking about 2,000 adults and 1,000 children approximately. And there are 10,000 or more learners, those who come visit and engage every year. 6 to 7,000 a population from surrounding region area comes as a population for employment. And we have started touching almost 10 lakh, like 1 million people, those who are coming annually to visit Auroville, also in a casual way, like day visitors. Auroville has been engaged also in the bioregion. You have to keep some numbers in mind when we're talking about 2,000 adult, 400-500 of them would be more active, and those who have multiple hats engaged in many activities. So Auroville is very small if you see on the right hand side map, but Auroville has been very actively engaged in a larger bioregion which is stretching almost 800 to 1,000 square kilometer, which is the watershed area of this water tank. This is called Kalivili. So tank rehabilitation, organic farming, educational activities, sports, there are village action groups. I'll be touching more about them. All this, if we see from the point of view of developing a spirit, developing the charter central vision for a city and society, which empowers people to be engaged and participatory in their own activity as well as in the region. So that is the root or the dimension or a story I want to share with you. That is the intention. Including the waste management, Auroville has been practicing for many, many years. So I'll just go. The pedestrian and cycle-oriented mobility, including e-mobility, the efforts and experiments towards that. Many students groups keep coming from all over India and the world. These were from IIT Roorkee, those who visited. This is Sadhana Forest. Students learning about the organic farming. Auroville has many organic farms within on Auroville lands. So experience about them. One of the main purpose or activity of Auroville is the learning, the schooling also, education, learning. And mother talks about five-fold principle. And one of them is uh, Sri Aurobindo talks about that nothing can be taught. So from that perspective also, they say each one of us has a seed inside, the native seed, and the role of parent or teacher is to nurture it and provide supporting ecosystem. So this approach gets translated right from the building design to the teaching curriculum, practices, activities, everything. So all this also happens in a very, very participatory way. This was one of the earlier schools, last school, a school which operates on no exam and no certificate basis, more for the perfectibility of learning. This is a modern, the newer campus of that of last school, which has an art center. Very young boys and girls, they do amazing, wonderful work. So it is also like Auroville has become known for its alternative learning practices, technology, architecture. But I want to draw attention to the more fundamental point of this. The charter of Auroville, the vision, the inspiration has given a kind of a sense of freedom and empowerment. Hence, the people, those who came here and those who wanted to try out things. So an environment is created or got created where people were applying themselves for all these manifestations and possibilities. So Auroville attracted the people, those who are really willing to try out, but everything also happens in a sense of collaboration. There is a feedback given to everything. I'll be talking more about them later. Recognition, you can visit Auroville website. There's a wide range of recognition, collaboration with government agencies and many other organizations have been happening. Very rich art and cultural scenario Auroville has. This is one of the Auroville Art Service page. One can check. Sometime community comes together. So our participation here at this scene is more of a silent participation of coming together into more of a silent spirit. Activity happens somewhere else. I'll be showing some of them. This is the way our final decision making happens. So if there is a proposal, this is finally decided. Before that, all the preparation, draft, previous community meetings have taken place. Fairly well known for its architecture, particularly for this crowd, Savitri Bhavan, Visitor Center. This was one of the exhibition I was part when Mr. Doshi was also involved with the planning of Auroville as a governing board member. the evolution of Auroville's built form, Roger Ange's work, and all this. There was a full exhibition. I can share the link of these things if people are interested. It was a 40-panel exhibition, very nice one. So this was done with an intention, so the residents are aware, they are familiar how Auroville's planning has evolved. And I think this is a very important thing to keep it for the residents of the city. Many studios learning. So this city and society is very open and openly engaged with the learning. So these are the qualities which I am saying, or the practices which have evolved over a period of time. So the whole city and society is kind of a living curriculum. It is receiving and engaging with all diverse range of activities. I have been engaged in many studios also. Auroville has also developed along with other sister cities nearby a regional plan. So again, if you go back to how many people are there, a small population, but people are very actively and dedicatedly engaged. One of the very important element is the bioregional activity. Like Auroville is aware, like you cannot be happy if your neighbor is not happy, sort of. So there are many learning labs, what we call them, activities which are happening, and they are having a very widespread footprint of engagement in the surrounding region in different activities, whether they are environmental. This is one of the Sustainable Livelihood Institute, uh, environmental activities, Sadhana Forest. So this is like ABDA, Auroville Bioregional Development Activities. I have a document about this also. If you people want, I can share the link. This was a SEPT Winter School, which was done here. So this society being open and receiving, these are the faculty members from university, those who are learning about the waste management practices and principles. And if you see how Auroville is relating, these are the different practices which have organically evolved over a period of time. So this is a very new and open type of, one can say, universities kind of a system in a very interdisciplinary way. We have our intranet, and I think our city should also go for this. So where people can give any comment, criticism, suggestions. Here you can see on the right hand side, you can launch your proposal and see how many people support, and that proposal could be given to resident assembly service. So these are the tools and technologies which are helping people come together, share ideas, share resources, like even taxi share, multiple things. Reports, all reports are published. On the left hand side, you will see news and note. You right now you can go on Auroville main website and download the latest issue, which has a very detailed account of the minutes, the notes. I'll just show you a slightly previous one. When we were also passing through the corona period, there was some financial issues in the community. So very detailed account of what were our community income, how are you dealing, how much we have to be careful. All this is available even to you. This is all published. So this gives a kind of a sense of empowerment and transparency, which leads to a public trust of coming together. We have internet-based radio system where everybody is like empowered, all different voices. So there are always different and voice with the polarities, but they have a place. This was a session which we had organized also in Auroville Economy. Some people come together, experts, they share, and it is recorded. You can see here on the top right, you can go and just listen to this. It is internet-based radio. Auroville Wiki, a very good resource. People are populating it. Lots of resource information is available. There is Auroville Film Festival, and also there is a marathon which happens every year. This year it has, next year it will not, looks doubtful this year. But a small group of people, how they are creating different kind of learning and engaging possibilities. And I think that culture is based on what I mentioned in the beginning. It is based on the spiritual vision, which promises you to, or gives an, or the interpretation of that, the freedom and sense of engagement. Some of you may be familiar with Adyar Ponga, Adyar Park in Chennai. So experts from Auroville has helped develop this park. So many people talked about public common space, open spaces. This was one of the gift I think Auroville was able to provide to Chennai. It's a very large city, and open spaces gift in the cities are, I think, one of the best gift which we can give. How to bring communities and people together and generate a dialogue. This is one of the map which we have been using in Auroville, like a superlay of the water systems, the percolation areas, built areas. And this is something very interesting. I would like to suggest even other cities if they wish if they can try. If you read all of these, there are more than 20. These are the different sectors of our life and society: mobility, housing, even whatever was talked in the previous presentations, health, education. So there was an exercise here which happened, lasted almost close to 2 years. And in each team, there were 7 to 10 people, those who were willing and interested in that topic. And they worked for more than 1 year, met almost once a week or twice or once in 2 weeks in a very structured way. They came together with the vision, issues, challenges, proposed ideas, all this kind of. And once they met crisscross, each activity interacted with other activity, and they came up together with a very integral sustainability. This document link I can also share if people are interested. So these were the level of effort and engagement, a long-term commitment with which Auroville has been working and evolving. So some of the key thing, if I have to talk about Auroville, it's a like commitment for engaging to transform. So there is a vision here, and there are practices, and there is a sense of collaboration. We have lots and lots of challenges. When you have a free system, it is not easy that things will happen easily. So there is no rosy path as such. There are full of challenges, but people are committed to address them. The systems allow to call for a meetings, give the feedback. No building is every building is to be published. All the plan documents are to be given. People give feedback. So those practices are already there in place. So if we look at most of the development, sustainable development goals, what the UN is proposing, I think many of these are in its own context from Auroville's perspective. They are being addressed here. Different learning programs, long-term programs are also being given. So like learning from Auroville is being shared. This was a 5-week program. So the framework which we have been following is self, society, and environment, and city and society as living curriculum. So I'm also engaged in multiple different activities. Presently, I am here in Roorkee, and I'm trying to see what can be done for Roorkee. So I'm working on those. And these are some of the last few slides, which are images from Auroville. I hope I have not gone much over time. Yeah. This is it. Thank you. I hope I was within the time. I don't know.
Yes. Many thanks, sir, for your very insightful presentation. And I'm sure that there will be a lot of questions from the audience as well. So we will now begin our exploratory discussion around the 3 play stories. And I now invite questions from the audience. Soumya, please take up the question one by one.
Yes, ma'am. So there's one question from Renu Singhal. If you can unmute yourself and ask the question, it would be really nice to the speaker. I've asked her to unmute.
I think this is for Preeti, right?
Yes, sir. I think I can ask it myself only. With changed lifestyles, how can... Oh, okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you, like with changed lifestyles, how can the idea of La Passeggiata be brought back? And it's not just talking about, like tactical urbanism, but in a long-term way, how can we get it back into our lives? Your presentation was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And in the beginning of my presentation, I said that we are Indians and we are who we are. So even if you imagine in this time of COVID, when we are, everybody is very scared and people are inside and things like this, just take a step outside into the world. I have been going to my college, my university, Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University, for past 1 week only for some official work. And I have seen there are loads of people in Chandni Chowk. Chandni Chowk, you go, you don't even feel like that Chandni Chowk is not the same Chandni Chowk it was before. So what I feel, a pandemic like this has also not undeterred the spirit of, La Passeggiata between people. So I feel that as urban designers, we just need to give them those, socializing spaces. The spaces that we design have to be, the kind of activities they actually want to perform. Like the new redevelopment plan that has come up has given enough space for these people to sit down with their friends who have gone to Chandni Chowk to enjoy some meals together, maybe a lunch together, go shopping together, buying books together. And these small spaces that they are creating in between will give them some passage of time, because they're carrying heavy loads of, shopping bags with them. So it gives them space enough to sit and then chat, rest a while, and move forward. So I think we don't need to, recreate spaces, or we don't need to create environment for La Pasijata. The moment the COVID is going to slow down, we are definitely going to move out into the city, because we are very social beings. Indians are very, very social beings. We can talk to your neighbors also standing on the staircase for hours together without even inviting them to your own house. So we are very social beings. So I think once that fear factor is just removed, everybody will move out onto the streets and would want to enjoy each other's company, shake a hand, and have a hug.
That would be really good, but it's like you have memories of, say, Chandni Chowk, and you have memories of calling someone uncle. But say the younger generation nowadays who are used to the mall culture, for them, that concept is totally different. How would you, you know,
Okay.
how could one design for something like that? Yeah.
Okay. See,
I mean, it's a very challenging.
I see it is definitely a very, very challenging aspect altogether. But another good thing about Indians is we are very forgetful and we get bored very easily. तो अभी ऑनलाइन जैसे है, खूब ऑनलाइन शॉपिंग चल रही है, एंड एट द एंड ऑफ द डे जब वो अपना बजट देखेंगे कि उन्होंने बिंज शॉपिंग बहुत कर ली है ऑनलाइन पे, तो स्लोली they'll need to slow down themselves. So similarly with these spaces, जैसे आप बोल रहे हैं, I think the times have moved forward. जिस तरह से हम अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ इंटरेक्ट करते थे, बातें करते थे, कहना सुनते थे, अब जो बच्चे हो गए, अब जो जनरेशन आ गई है, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन, दे आर मोर लाइक इंटरैक्टिव. You have to be friendly to them, you have to talk to them. तो जनरेशन चेंज हो गई, तो कॉन्सेप्ट सिमिलर नहीं रहेगा. जो हमारे बचपन में था वो हमारे बच्चों के बचपन में नहीं होगा. इवन दो वी वांट कि आवर चिल्ड्रन शुड लिव द चाइल्डहुड दैट वी लिव्ड, some parts of it I think cannot be transferred. It's not hereditary. So basically जो space है, but the concept और the feel जो है वो totally architects का responsibility नहीं है. I think it comes through the parenting and through the households, the lifestyle of the people at present, the way they are living their lives. Do they really want what they are doing at the moment? जिस दिन वो जागरूकता आ गई ना लोगों के अंदर, then La Pasijata is always going to come back. It is going to come back, but it will come back in its own way.
Right. Thank you so much.
Most welcome.
Ma'am, so the next question is for Ekta ma'am. It's from Parush Singhal. The question is, would there be an impact of COVID in designing a common place now? Or how would we redesign existing common places with impact of COVID, not only in India, but around the world?
Very, very interesting and pertinent question, I have to say. So kudos for even bringing it up. But yeah, we need to re-look at design altogether. I mean, having congregation places for multiple number of people is something we're going to probably have to change. And bigger is not always better. So small, intimate, cozy spaces, I think will work for now. And once the vaccination is given, then we'll again need to readjust open common spaces. Yeah, thank you.
So the next question is for Bhati sir. How do you think the Auroville ideology be applied to the outside world, which has specific governance and funding issues in decision making?
So this is one of the very regular question which is asked. So my answer to that actually was in one of the initial slides. If you see how Auroville has come up, so what are the, if you see the key insights, what represents, what has made Auroville what it is today, is the sense of conviction, dedication, commitment, sense of service offering, and a sense of working on yourself as well as on a society and creating systems towards that. So if these qualities are practiced, or if we work towards these qualities, our cities, when we talk about cities, city by notion becomes very big. Let us talk about the neighborhood, few families. So the change always starts with some of the very small segments. I think these are some of the things which get missed out either in a family setting in terms of learning, also in a college or educational component, that start change small. And it is very much possible. There are many things which are happening. Another thing is generally both. I think many times our family cultural values, which are amazing, but somehow at times less participatory. This is what I would say. So if our family foundation itself is bit less participatory, we are not open. How a boy or a girl, a young boy or a girl who will become tomorrow's this the responsible citizen, a person who will drive some transformation in the surroundings. So how will they feel empowered? So it starts from also your house. So there is certain shift of living practices, personal values, and collective systems which we need to make, which will bring this transformation on a holistic level. On a practical level, on a very physical plane, many works are happening and can be done, like the redevelopment of either Chandni Chowk. People might have different comments about this. Many other cities which needs either even a simple space widening or a more space to sit. I remember when we used to interact with Mr. Doshi, and one of the very emphatic sentence I still remember. He says the purpose of architecture is to generate a dialogue. It is to generate a dialogue. So the kind of architecture we do, if it has that possibility and that quality, if it can generate the dialogue, perhaps we are doing a right thing. So even you put a bench, something which can generate dialogue. Preeti is talking quite a lot about how we Indians have a very informal reaching out ability. No, we can reach out to people. So there is something already positive in that sense. So certain level of awareness and commitment is required in the people, then only a sustainable change can come. So we cannot um outsource that. We have to keep in mind. Otherwise, our mindset has also become that is the civic administration. They are elected people and there is a budget. It is their duty. If this would have been so simple, things would have happened differently, and it has not happened. So my experience from Auroville is people commit and if needed they ask questions, and because of also that the system is naturally gradually becoming transparent. There is nothing kind of under the carpet. So whatever is published, the budget discussion, it all happens openly. There can be totally different, we fight quite a lot, but what I'm saying is we fight for a purpose. So if we work on those qualities, and I think if those qualities, it was exactly for this I started this workshop which we did, engaging cities, and the themes were the governance, food, open space, water, heritage, art, and all, so that people know what all is there in the cities and how you can empower yourself to engage with your cities. The quality of engagement is not really taught, generally speaking. So if that element is taken, and I liked what I really compliment to Urvashi's and the people like Urvashi, those who are putting a great selfless service for people to be engaging in the city. What is there at stake for them? There is a certain sense, there is a feeling of a sacred commitment to a place where either we are living or we have grown up. I am in the same circuit right now. I am sitting here in Roorkee, visiting my parents, and whenever I'm going around, I'm taking photo, I'm trying to make some links connection to see how this city could be, quality of life could be enhanced, because I see this city has a certain special character and possibility. It is complex, but nobody has ever promised the cakewalk. So I'm very willing to work on this, and I'll be happy if some people here, those who are sitting, want to join the effort. I don't know if I answered you or not.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So the next question is from Rajiv Maini. Can you please unmute yourself and ask?
Hi. I'm actually working in a slightly different environment. I'm working in Sydney, in Australia. But I try and attend as many of these webinars as possible. Very interesting discussions. My question was to do with the role of politicians wanting to use public spaces or places to exert their authority. I mean, I keep a close eye on what is happening in India because I studied in Delhi and, I spent a lot of time there working as well. So my question was, is it a necessary or reasonable ingredient in the creation of public places, or is it just something which is being imposed and planners don't have a control over it?
This is addressed to whom?
I think
Whoever.
it's an open question.
So where I
I'm
live,
talking about statues and boards and things that you see in public spaces.
I don't know. Please go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, please.
नहीं, आप
Please,
बोलिए,
Mr. Bhatti.
आप-
No, after you. Go ahead.
So again, I think for me, everything starts with the intent. So the intent, if you see, if we are talking about democratic process and the path which we have taken, it is very normal that we will end up practicing all those things. So it is a natural byproduct of the path which we have taken as of now. Till somebody comes, till a new system comes, which may come, and I think it should come, where a new kind of politics takes over. But to give birth to that new child of a new politics, basically politics is art of governance. It is not bad as such. It's a practice which we apply with a certain value system. It is all practice. Any two people having a two different thought, they are dealing with politics. How do you come together? How do you work it out? So those practices are natural byproduct because everybody is looking for a certain, I don't know how to say, the capturing of the public space mindset. What is advertisement? Same. So these statues, they imprint. So they give a revival of certain memory system that this came to this, or either we celebrating, either there are some genuine heroes or some political figures. So this is a way of the way politics is practiced today. We all are equally open. I mean, if you and me want to conduct a rally in some open space, I think it should be possible. But what happens, most of us are generally not able to do that for various reasons. So in the normal space, the people, those who are holding rallies, 99% happen to be political rallies. So instead of that, if we have a city design festival, just imagine. So we need to organize ourselves. So the art of organizing and doing something for common cause, I think this is very sacred and special if we can have the courage and capacity to do this. And we must do that. So if we have a parallel narrative, if we have the capacity to change the narrative, then a parallel picture may emerge. Till that, the old proposal will continue. This is what I think. Please. Ekta ji, aap.
Yeah, so again, good question, and we absolutely need to address it when we talk about the public realm, because the blatant use of power cannot be tolerated anymore. I'm being political. I'm, absolutely. But so Mr. Bhatti talked about the intent. So the intent and the content both need to be balanced. Absolutely. The talk in the United States of taking down Confederate general statues now because it's offensive to the African American community because they perpetuated the idea of slavery. So I absolutely think that the reins of every public space need to lie with the end user. And I think they need to have a say in what should and what should not be in their space. Thanks.
I would like to add something to it.
Yeah, please.
See, we can say like there are so many architects and all of them cannot think in the same manner. In the government or the political body which is planning and designing, there are also always some chief architects and planners involved. They do not do away with the architecture fraternity altogether before they start planning anything. Now, how good or bad, there is nobody you can call as a good or a bad architect. We can say that we have different perspectives. So every city is like a child which is born out of, it's more like too many cooks have spoiled the broth. It's more like that. So we cannot say that the imagery of a city can be very well defined unless it is pre-planned in a very, conspicuous manner by any political party at that time, that it has to grow in a certain manner and then the other parties to actually follow the path that has been laid beforehand. But at the end of the day, we feel that if the end user is happy, if you look at the public and if they're happy, okay, there is a bench at least for me to sit. They do not actually care about what is the size, shape, or the location or the orientation of the bench, till there is a bench for them to sit. So I feel that whatever the political agendas, of course, the political agendas are there because they want to keep in power for many years to come. But then at the end of the day, if it is serving the local population and the end user, I think it's a win-win game for all of us.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Soumya?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So in fact, yeah, it is very interesting, the fact that Bhati sir talked about intent and content. Ekta, you also talked about that. So I think though we are the argumentative Indians, but somehow I think we have lost that art of organizing as ourselves as a collective body, as a community with intent. So the arguments are fine, but that argument has to be channelized and directed towards some kind of an objective. At it is very important. Like you're talking about government taking, creating their space within that public space. It is also very important for people, the common people like us, to assert their right on public spaces. Because if we start giving up these spaces to, in a sense, we don't, like Bhati sir mentioned that, why do we have these political parties only organizing rallies in public spaces? I think there is no more need for these kind of events and activities other than which are political, also to be, organized in such public spaces. So one quick question from me to, anyone who is willing to take up that. Placemaking, we all know, is a participatory process, and it is originally, we can find, concepts of placemaking in India as well. In our own, historic cities, we see these kind of activities. Though we may not name them as placemaking, but what are the challenges of placemaking in India? In the current scenario.
I think Mr. Bhatti might want to answer that first, and then I'll pick it up.
No, you can very well go ahead.
No. I think you are right there and doing work that actually exemplifies placemaking.
I can share some of my, say, first-hand life experience here, but I also want to be careful not to say that the larger normal other context of Indian cities and societies is on another level, sort of. So it has to be seen and carefully tread with. Orwell started with a vision. So I would say for the placemaking, somewhere again and again this comes to my mind, some committed people with the capacity to facilitate. This is coming to me, or what I have seen. If there are people with a certain capacity, those who can facilitate, the art of facilitation, then you are not biased, but you know how to bring out our different ideas, a stakeholder, a commoner, maybe even a wealthy neighborhood person, a ward, whatever, you write from the mayor to the councillor, anybody. So if we know how to facilitate that process, which can empower the people, and from this empowerment comes the trust, at least the faith and the hope. And I essentially feel, this is my reading, not everybody has to take, we essentially live on inspiration and hope. Money is a supporting cause. We live on inspiration and support. We are looking for a sense of purpose. So if there is a process, and the sense of purpose generally still comes if there is an identifiable group of people. See, I mean, the constitution is there. Sometime I say in a very joking way, the lessons of Gita is printed for hundreds of years, not many Arjuns have been produced. So there is a lot of written word around us. There is a lot of empowering notions and stories. What is that which makes a person to go towards the next stage of self and society transformation? Towards that, if anybody, those who feel committed and those who have the skills, so if people can support and provide that role, I think somewhere we are not able to create that supportive environment, conducive environment. So working towards that, and it is also a long term affair. So if there is a group which can hold the space and which can make it work, and it is a complex process. I was thinking, I have had my own experiences, ups and downs, while working in Auroville planning and development situation. I would not say it has been a very smooth ride, but there is a huge learning I have got. I have a high respect for that. And that learning has been more around how you have to also take up, you have to surrender to certain things. So you have to take out your own opinion and feeling. So you have to be a true facilitator in that sense. You have to be, that means, open to learning. So to define the stage, again, we can go towards the intent element. How do we hold the space and work towards it and create a system around this and encourage people to participate, keeping a bit more focus on the youth. I will put it this way: focus on the youth, because they are the ones, those who will do. So this is, Urvashi, what comes to my mind in a very rather focused way.
Yeah.
List can be very long, that many things have to change. I mean, not big wheel is always not easy to move,
Yeah.
but starting a small neighborhood, because one thing is for sure, a good practice has a very, uh, what would you call, not replication, but a very, yeah, it has an element that many people can catch it, because somewhere people are looking for it, they are waiting, but they are not entering into the waters. Who would not like to live a quality of life? Everybody. But somehow we have defined our boundaries because it is uncomfortable, it is difficult. I don't like that person, you don't like because that person has a different view. I mean, everybody in your own house has a different view. Do we run away? No. So to develop a capacity, I'm again coming back to that. And I think this is something which is actually, I feel, not really taught even in our schools. Something like this has to come, in my understanding, right from a family. It's a family culture, no? You are allowing everybody to be what they want to be. Foundation starts there, and then wherever you work, wherever you friends, any two people, they have to work it out something. So if we work towards that culture, and if we take some sample pilot areas, whatever is small, and then we work on them, and I think this is what you people are also trying, no?
Exactly.
And the media today, the social media and many other things, they are facilitating. So you can have your story, your narrative, add people, give them a chance to speak out. So all those things were earlier not possible. Today everybody is making a video. One thing which I personally feel which should be, which is helpful, and I'm struggling and I'm looking for ideas. If some of the Indian cities have a very mapping based websites, GIS systems, where citizens can click, check, map has a very special sense of relating with the space. So if we can work towards that, I think that will empower people. It's a very simple thing. A normal common person, he should be able to know in his ward, 5 lakh rupees have been budgeted, and this budget is for both the street lighting, waste management, and the footpath improvement. Is it not a simple, empowering information that person never gets? While there is everything is there in paperwork. So if we, some of us, the professionals, those who feel motivated towards this, if we create even that first layer, and if we engage our students even in a studio, you know, even using technology, I must say, there are apps possible. You can develop even neighborhood apps. So if you work towards that, I think that would be fantastic. That would be real empowerment. And it will also create then accountability. And that will lead to transparency. So like this is an ecosystem of things which will lead towards, let us say, an enhanced collective living experience. This is what comes to my mind right now.
Thank you, sir. Ekta, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Mr. Bhatti's actually answered it very comprehensively. But the one thing that where we start this process is listening. You know, as a professional, we have stopped listening. We think we have all the solutions. So listening is a new art that we need to engage in more. And you know, our agenda cannot be myopic anymore. It has to be for the greater good. And once we as a professional understand that, I think we will not go wrong in that seeking the solutions and helping with the solutions. And we are only one of the stakeholders of the solution. I mean, as soon as we understand that, I think we are in the right place.
Sure. Preeti, would you in this just quickly add to that and before we wrap up?
Okay. See, placemaking does not happen overnight. And as Bhatti sir has said that new talent and new people, new ideas need to come forward and people have to get together to bring that idea into being. There are as far as that mapping thing that sir was mentioning, I'm happy to share it with you that my M-Plan students, we are working with the Delhi Municipal Corporation and they are doing the GIS mapping for Malviya Nagar as of now, and it's a practical project that they are getting hands on working with in their only first years of master's plan.
Great.
And that is it's such a learning lesson, and many of them are coming up with entrepreneur ideas for even they have got these ideas. We have triggered that sense of belongingness to the place, understanding urban spaces. It's just not theoretical anymore. So I feel that more being architects together, we need to first start respecting ourselves and our fraternity first, because when we start respecting ourselves and our fraternity, yes, we are somebody, and together we are more than anybody. So then probably this placemaking is going to be more powerful and we will be able to thrust it upon the government. We can own our own place and our own. I remember the time when I joined architecture in 1993. My parents didn't even know what an architect was. The architecture was so new. It was such a new stream. They said engineer ban jao, civil engineer ban jao, architect ban ke kya karogi. It was like this. So now slowly over these years now, architecture has actually come up as a field which talks about organization, which talks about people, what people feel. We talk about a different dimension from what the built masses altogether. So basically we have to first start respecting ourselves and we have to respect the entrepreneurial ideas that the students are giving us. We cannot say okay, we know it all. We don't know it all. At this stage also, after 20-25 years of experience, I when I meet my first year students, I'm with open mind. This child can give me an idea which I might not have thought of in last 30-40 years down the line as an architect. So it's, if you have to be with open ideas, and probably together we can definitely make some place making would become easier that way.
Great. Thank you, Professor Ityanyani, Preeti Chauhan, and Mr. Lalit Kishore Bhatti for sharing your stories, experiences, and learning with us. It has been a very, very interesting, session, and I hope all the people participating would have enjoyed, and all this storytelling would have, triggered some kind of, ideas in their minds as well. Stay tuned for our next special play story session on public space. Um, as a we are talking about the art of storytelling actually in the session number 4, which is scheduled on the 3rd of January 2020 for from 5 p.m. Onwards. So it's about creating narration about public spaces, epistolary and both verbal narratives. Dr. Kaushik Ghosh, imaging scientist, photographer and graphic designer, Storyshala, interweaving visual and narrative communication, will be the speaker. Mr. Jitendra Arora, head DICE VFS School of Entertainment Arts, is the other speaker. Ms. Deepti Pant, Chief Mentor, Truth School and Institute of Innovation and Storytelling, will also be joining us for the session. The registration link for the session 4 will be shared shortly. Once again, I personally thank each one of you for your participation and support to the Festival of Places. Look forward to meeting all of you again in the new year next Sunday, same time, same place. Till then, wishing you a very, very healthy and happy new year. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi.
Thank
Thank you, all
you.
of you.
Thank you, Urvashi.
Wonderful.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well done. Good to see you, Preeti, after a long time.
Yes, sir. Same here.
Keep in touch.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you then. Bye.